most people consider me more of a fashion icon than I am a movie reviewer, if you will.
Stop, Dave. I'm afraid.
Why don't you play us something, baby? Why don't you play us something? Why don't you play us something, baby?
Start? I don't feel so good.
What's up, everybody? Our first movie today is First Cow, a little A24 movie from director Kelly Reichardt. I think that's how you say that. I don't think I've ever actually heard it, but it's Reichardt. Reichardt? I don't know. Either way, this is a little movie based on Jonathan Raymond's novel, The Half-Life, and we'll talk more about that later. But they also wrote the script together for this one. Hello, Gray Boy. Hello, Gray. Hello, little Gray. Hello, Gray. It's always good to see that A24 banner pop up on the screen. When you see that production logo, you know you're in for something, good or bad. Certainly weird. This one's not that weird, though. This one's just a straight-up Western. I kind of expected it to be maybe not that. I don't know what I expected. I didn't watch I didn't look up any information before watching this. I just saw that it was a popular movie that film Twitter was going on about, and usually that means that it's an A24 movie. First thing you'll notice when you bump on into this bad boy, it's classic art house, so it's going to be 4:3. It's going to be beautiful imagery. You get to see a Leah Shawkat for 2 minutes, discover some skelly boys, some little skeletons, some little skeletons. When you find, I don't know about you, but when I find a skull in the forest, I don't immediately dig up the rest of the body. I get the fuck away from the skull. But that's just me personally. This movie immediately jumps to the 1800s in Oregon, following a little man called Cookie, who happens to be a cook, traveling with this group of fur trappers, and he's not doing a very good job. It's also kind of hard to see what he's doing because this movie doesn't have any lighting rig whatsoever, which is fine, I guess, for these kind of movies. That adds to the realism, I suppose, but you simply cannot see anything in the dark. So any of the scenes that are shot at night, almost impossible to see. I was squinting. I thought maybe my eyes were broken, maybe my TV were broken. But as it turns out, it's just art house, so you can't see shit, and that's fine. That's fine for the most part. While he's in the pitch black of night woods, he runs into a man called King Lu, a Chinese man running from some Russians. He killed one of their friends or something, and they form a little friendship, which the rest of this movie is based on. Now, you're probably wondering what this has to do with a cow, because I haven't mentioned a cow yet. I've mentioned a cookie. I've mentioned a Chinese man. I've mentioned complete darkness that this movie shot in. I haven't mentioned a cow. If you're looking at the poster, you can see that there's a cow. There's actually not that much cow in this movie, but it is very important. The first cow is the first cow that has made it to the Pacific Northwest in the 1800s, and it's going to a wealthy man called the Factor, played by our good friend of the show, Toby Jones. We love that little guy. He's so interesting to look at, that Toby Jones, and that's a lot of fun to see him in there. He's ordered this cow. The bull died on the way over, so it's just a cow. It's the only cow, and he only uses the milk for his tea, like a nice rich Jeff Bezos type. He's hoarding the cows to himself. This Jeff Bezos type. Now, as Cookie and King Lu become friends, they start talking about what their aspirations are of coming out all the way out to Oregon. King Lu wants to open up a bakery or a hotel or something, and Cookie is interested in opening up a bakery or a hotel or something. I don't know which one wanted to open what. I suspect that Cookie, the cook, wanted to open the bakery, but when I think back on the movie, I think he said a hotel for some reason. Either way, they're talking about their aspirations, because this movie is really kind of in a weird way about the American dream. It's a kind of in a weird way about capitalism, even though it takes place in a pre-capital world. Obviously, there was still rich people and poor people. They make some really great points about how if you're just a poor person, you can't start anything. You have to have some sort of capital to begin. I think I actually have a quote here. Let's see. No, I do not. But it makes some really good points about how you have to have capital to do anything in this world. And that's when and it does take like an hour to get to this point, so it is, I think for some it may be hard. This may be a hard watch because it is a little dry. However beautiful and quiet it is as a film, it's a very simple story that maybe viewers will want more from. But I think if you just look at it as this very simple Western story, it is a good watch. About an hour in, they decide that they should start stealing some milk. They should start selling some milk, stealing milk from the cow because he only uses it for tea. And they start making these things called oily cakes for the townspeople. And they're selling them for a high price, a bargain. They look pretty good. They look like donuts with cinnamon and honey drizzled on them. A pretty tasty treat. If you came all the way looking for gold in the Pacific Northwest, you came all the way from Baston looking for gold in the Pacific Northwest. Eventually, the wealthy landowner, the factor, he decides he wants some of the sticky buns, tries one, and he's like, wow, this is good. Invites the cook to be his personal cook. He makes some blueberry pancakes for them. This is very interesting because they start hanging out with the cow a lot, and the cow already knows them. Eventually, they do get caught milking the cow, and that's pretty much the end of the movie, because this movie isn't really about the events that happen in it. These are just, I've laid out like a small number of things that happen in this movie because most of the content is about Cookie and King Lou becoming friends. This is a movie about friendship. Like I said before, it's one of the tiniest heist movies of all time because they're just stealing a little bit of milk to try and get by. The thing that I think where this movie shines is the two characters are very likable. There's not much tension in this movie. There's hardly any stakes, really. I mean, what's going to happen if they get caught stealing milk? Probably, maybe they get exiled. They can probably get away, though. It's Oregon. So it's the wild. It's a wilderness. There's like 2 cities. It comes down to a very simple theme: capitalism bad, donuts good, friendship over everything. It kind of has a beautiful ending. It is so simple. Like it has a deliberate pace that really grounds you in the reality and the world of Oregon in the 1800s. Like it does quickly kind of engross you in that world, and I think that's where it really succeeds. It is so sad that that Cookie and King Lou never got to fuck because they so clearly love each other in this beautiful romance. Really, this is a love story to the wilderness. Is what this is. I'm just saying buzzwords now. I don't know. I liked it fine enough. It's kind of light on content, but the acting is very good, and they do a lot. They do a lot of the storytelling from a visual standpoint, and just like in the moments of silence. And I like when a movie can use the silence as part of the storytelling, and it uses the silences and as understandings for the characters. I think it works. I don't know if I love it, but I did like watching it. That's a buck 3-star. This is a land of abundance, Cookie. Go find us something to eat. What's up, everybody? If you like video games, you are in luck. When I'm not doing Movie Epidemic, I'm over on Twitch playing video games every single day. You can head on over to twitch.tv/JHMacy, and you can see me and my girlfriend playing mini games. Right now we're playing Paper Mario and various other Pokemon games. That's every day of the week. And if you miss them, don't worry. We've got the VOD, and we have a YouTube channel right here called Play Pokey, where you can see the archive of every single stream. You can watch all 4 hours of the stream every day, or however long it goes. And that would be great if you could go over there and subscribe to that bad boy. We appreciate it. Now, back to the episode. All right, everybody. Next up, we've got a fresh little film from Abel Ferrara. You may know him from The Bad Lieutenant or possibly The Kings of New York. He's kind of a cult New York filmmaker guy. He's moved to Europe. He's moved to Europe in the last 20 years and kind of just bangs out some real auteur shit over there. This movie I was lucky enough to catch at a screening with Kino Marquee. It was like $9, but it supports your local art house theater. So if you want to go head over to Kino Marquee and check that out. Maybe your theater's on there. I don't know. You'd have to look. I'm always happy to support my local theater without actually leaving the house, so that was nice. The streaming service itself is a little weird. It's fine, but like after like 90 minutes in, it started buffering a lot for no real reason. I don't know what the reason for that was. And it made the last half an hour really annoying to watch. But other than that, I like the service, and I'm happy that my local theaters can get some money right now, even if I refuse to go and sit in a theater with a bunch of masked heathens. So Tommaso is a movie starring Willem Dafoe, who is Abel Ferrara's real life neighbor in Rome. They both live in Rome. I think Dafoe only lives there part-time, but they are close friends. I think Dafoe's been in like 4 or 6 Ferrara movies in the last like 10 years. Like every time I see a Ferrara movie, I'm like, oh, yep, there's Dafoe again. There's Dafoe again, getting in on that shit. Dafoe plays the kind of mirror image of Abel Ferrara, because this is kind of a loosely autobiographical movie. His real life wife and daughter play his wife and daughter in this movie. I think what you'll first notice about this movie is it's kind of loosely put together. It's kind of a loose formatted film. There's a lot of, I read that it's largely improvised. There's a lot of local people in this that aren't necessarily actors, just kind of like local people. This is one of those movies that's shot on film, but it's so HD and so nice to look at. Maybe just because Rome is nice to look at, I don't know. But everything about this is beautifully shot. A lot of this movie is just kind of, I don't know how I would explain it. I guess it's kind of like the joys of the mundane, because it's a lot of times just Willem Dafoe living his average life. And this is a movie about a recovering addict, Abel Ferrara himself, and kind of the struggles that it takes to overcome this. How being an addict kind of never leaves you, like the cyclical nature of the addiction. I think what's interesting about this movie is because it's so much improvised by Willem Dafoe that pieces of his life and pieces of Ferrara's life are kind of balanced in the character, because I don't think the character is neither completely Ferrara or completely Dafoe or either of them at all. It's kind of its own thing. That's an amalgamation of all of their past regrets, possibly. This is another movie where I was looking at my TV and I'm like, is my TV broken or something? Because I can't see anything. Another movie that relies heavily on natural lighting and scenes that are so dark all the time, but it's less in this movie than it was in First Cow. So watching these back to back, having a little art house day, it was a lot for me to watch. Splitting up the mundanity of life of Willem Dafoe just trying to live his life, taking care of his daughter, being a parent, writing his movie, doing all the things he has to do in this film. It's broken up by these sections of him at his AA meetings, and these are really strong monologues from Dafoe, because Dafoe, I've talked about this on the show many times, he's probably one of the greatest living actors. Everything he's in, he is absolutely pristine. He loves to yell at scumbags. If you go back and listen to our Florida Project review, we talk a lot about how good Willem Dafoe is at screaming at scumbags and also working with children, because he's such a weird, goofy guy. And this has both of that, because he's taking care of his little daughter, and there's also scumbags everywhere. This isn't a particularly pleasant movie, though. It is very self-loathing. It is very self-reflective, and it is kind of nice to see that from a director that has had such a kind of a rough go. Not that Abel Ferrara is like as bad of a person as some of those that New York generation of guys, but he is a true auteur that has had his share of issues. And this is a movie that doesn't shy away from that. It doesn't shy away from showing all of the bad decisions he's made and continues to make. This is a movie that you see. It's so interesting to see the cyclical nature of Willem Dafoe's character, as at one point he is yelling at a guy saying that he's scaring his daughter until he becomes that guy that's yelling at his wife and daughter, you know. It's the vicious circle of addiction, of once you gun down one problem, another one emerges. And no amount of repent can change your past actions. I think one thing that makes this a really interesting film is that a lot of times when you see these kind of movies made by filmmakers about their life, is they often depict themselves as like a struggling genius. Abel Ferrara never does that in this movie. He never depicts himself as a guy struggling to do his work. He's just doing his work. He's getting it done. He's still making things that he wants to make. He specifically moved from the States to Europe so that he could make art house films and have Final Cut. He didn't want to make blockbusters anymore, and he just wanted to make kind of quiet films like this. Even though he is a man known for his outrageous movies such as Bad Lieutenant, and this movie has little flashes of Bad Lieutenant in it. It's surreal yet grounded, and it's also a raw, angry, mean movie, but it also feels personal and real, and it's hard to get. I think it's hard to strike that balance at times without maybe making it too self-congratulatory or too despicable. But I think even though it is a slow-moving movie, the way that the camera ebbs and flows through the story is like very, very well made. I don't know if I'd ever watch this again. I don't know that I need to see 2 hours of a man struggling with the regrets of his past again, but it is worth a watch once, I think. Probably a pretty good addition to the Abel Ferrara canon if you're going through that. I don't think this is a perfect film. I think that it has some issues, but I do think it is a very personal film and probably one of Abel Ferrara's better films. And for that, I'm going to give this the classic buck 4 stars. This is a quote I pulled from an interview he did when he was talking about this movie. And the interviewer asked, "What are your thoughts on the current studio film now that everything is very corporatized?" And he says, "I don't watch a lot of it, and that's probably the reason. It's not often that people say, 'Hey man, you got to see a studio film. You can't miss this film.' I've seen some stuff. It's all right. Great films come from a singular vision. Directing is not a group think. The director has a certain job. Everyone has their gig. It's a communal trip, but the director has final word. And if he's not, I don't know what possibilities of that movie could ever be. Movies like Star Wars are made for children." So that's kind of the vibe you're going to get into when you watch a movie like Tommaso or any of his kind of more recent films, is he is a true auteur, one of those classic auteurs that really just wants to make his singular vision, and that really shines through here, and I think that is why this movie works. All right, everybody, before we go, I just want to read a comment that we got last week on Movie Epidemic 302, Top 50 Movies. This is from JP. It says, "Film Review Treasure Trove. Found your podcast in October searching for Parasite movie reviews after going to the Crested Butt Film Festival. Have listened to older podcasts in the meantime. Great content. Keep it up." Thank you very much, JP. We appreciate that over here at Movie Epidemic, the whole crew. Now, if you have any comments, I will read them next week on the show. If you have any comments on First Cow or Tommaso, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? What do you think? What you can yell at me. You can say I was great. If you leave a comment, I will read it at the end of next episode, or maybe the beginning. We'll see. We'll see if I remember at the beginning. I didn't remember this week. So thanks for listening, guys. Give us a subscribe, give us a like, and tune in on Wednesday for a horror review. Friday, we have Star Trek reviews. That's usually Next Generation or a movie. And then on Sunday, out of the Patreon vault, we have a classic episode from the original Movie Epidemic podcast. Thanks for watching.
Stop, Dave.